Elena Foster's hands were still trembling on the steering wheel as her small truck rolled along the dark dirt road. She kept blinking fast, trying to wake herself up. It had already been a long day at the animal clinic, the kind where emergencies kept coming one after another. And she had been looking forward to going home, making tea, and falling asleep. But then her phone rang, and everything changed. The call had been short. A man's voice, deep, rough, and tight with worry, had said, "It's Dustfire. I need help. Please come fast." That was all. No details. No explanation. But Elena didn't need more. She knew who Dustfire was. The famous stallion belonging to Cole Merritt. The rancher, whose name everyone in the county knew. He wasn't famous for being friendly, but for being strong, private, and stubborn in a quiet way. He was the sort of man who almost never asked for help. If he was calling her late at night, something had to be very wrong. The night outside was cold and still. Her headlights lit the dusty road, and the tall shapes of pine trees passed on either side. The ranch sat miles away from town, and the drive always felt long, especially when she was tired. She rubbed her eyes and forced herself to focus. The wind pushed lightly against the truck, and the only sound was the hum of the engine and her own heartbeat picking up a little every time she thought about Dustfire. The stallion wasn't just any horse, he was the pride of the Merritt Ranch, strong, fast, and beautiful. If something had happened to him, Elena understood why Cole sounded shaken. When she finally reached the ranch gate, she pushed it open slowly. The sky was dark, dotted with a few stars, and the barns sat silently in the distance, their outlines barely visible. She parked near the main barn, grabbed her medical bag, and stepped out into the cold air. Her boots crunched on the gravel. Everything felt too quiet, like the calm before a storm. As she walked closer to the barn, she heard it. A deep, distressed sound. A mix of fear and pain. Dustfire. She hurried inside, and her breath caught in her throat. The scene in front of her was overwhelming. The large stallion was moving restlessly inside his stall, shifting his weight from side to side, tossing his head, breathing fast. His usually bright eyes looked clouded with worry. But what froze her even more was the man next to him. Cole Merritt stood there, both hands on the stall door. His jaw clenched, his shirt sleeves rolled up, his hair messy like he had been running his hands through it all evening. The strong rancher everyone talked about looked nothing like the calm, controlled figure she had seen at past farm checkups. Tonight he looked troubled, and that alone made Elena's stomach twist. "You came," he said quietly when he saw her. His voice wasn't rough now, it was tired, and maybe even a little scared. "I came as fast as I could," Elena replied, still catching her breath. She stepped into the stall, moving carefully so she wouldn't startle the horse. "Tell me everything." Cole shook his head in frustration. "I don't know what happened. He was fine this morning. Running like always. Eating like always. But a few hours ago, he started acting strange, restless. Didn't want to be touched. Something's wrong. I can feel it." Elena moved closer to Dustfire. The horse flicked an ear toward her. Recognizing the familiar scent of a vet, she gently placed a hand on his neck, feeling the heat beneath his skin. He was warm. Too warm. His muscles were tight, and his breath came quick. Something wasn't right indeed. Behind her, Cole was moving too fast, grabbing tools, shifting buckets, trying to help, but only making the space feel more chaotic. His voice was tense as he asked, "What do you need? What can I do?" Elena felt her own exhaustion catching up to her. Her mind raced to focus, but the noise, the rushing, the stress of the day, all of it was stacking up. Cole suddenly knocked over a metal bucket, the loud clang echoing through the barn. Dustfire startled. Elena's heart jumped. She spun toward Cole and blurted out before she could stop herself, "Slow down. I can't take this anymore. Her voice cracked from tiredness more than emotion. The words hung in the air. She immediately regretted how sharp they sounded. Cole froze. For a moment, his expression shifted surprise, maybe guilt, but then something softer settled in his eyes. He nodded once, quietly, and stepped back. I'm sorry, he said, in a tone she had never heard from him before. I'm worried. Elena took a deep breath and forced herself to calm down. It's okay, she said more softly. I'm just tired. Let's figure this out together. She turned back to Dustfire, gently stroking his neck to help relax him. The horse responded slowly, his breathing easing just a bit. Elena opened her medical bag and took out a small flashlight to check his eyes, gums, and skin. Everything looked normal on the outside. Too normal. That worried her even more. She needed to see everything. Cole, she said, I need you to remove the saddle so I can check under it. Saddle. 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 Cole didn't argue. He stepped into the stall and unbuckled the straps. His movements were slower now. Careful. When he finally lifted the saddle and placed it on the ground, Elena expected to see clean skin beneath it. But instead, she gasped. There was a deep mark hidden, swollen, red. It wasn't obvious from the outside earlier, but now it was clear that something had been pressing into Dustfire's back for too long. A tiny object, maybe a burr or a piece of debris, had gotten caught beneath the saddle padding and had rubbed against his skin until it caused an infection. Elena felt a sharp wave of worry. This is serious, she murmured. Cole's shoulders tightened. His jaw worked as if he was trying to swallow his guilt. I didn't see it, he whispered. I should have checked. I always check. His voice cracked in a way that made Elena's chest tighten. She knew how much this horse meant to him. It was hidden, she said firmly. Anyone could have missed it. What matters is fixing it now. Cole nodded slowly, but the shame still rested heavily on his face. Elena pulled on gloves and started cleaning the wound carefully. Dustfire winced, but she kept her touch steady and gentle. Cole watched her every move, as if afraid that if he blinked, something worse might happen. The barn was quiet, except for the soft sounds of Dustfire's breathing and the occasional shift of his hooves. The cold night air slipped in through the small cracks in the barn door, brushing against Elena's neck. She focused hard, trying to block out her tiredness. Each time she dabbed the wound, she saw Cole gripping the stall door tighter. She didn't need words to understand how scared he was. After several long minutes, she stepped back. Dustfire still looked uncomfortable, but he wasn't moving as aggressively now. The wound was cleaned, but the infection underneath worried her deeply. She needed to act fast. He needs treatment, she said quietly. Strong treatment, and soon. Cole swallowed hard. Will he be okay? Elena hesitated. She didn't want to lie, but she also didn't want to scare him more. I'll do everything I can, she said honestly. But this won't be simple. The way Cole looked at Dustfire made Elena pause. He didn't see the horse as property or part of his work. He saw him as something far more important, something he deeply cared about. And that made the moment feel heavier. She reached into her bag again, her hand steady now. Help me hold him, she said. We're going to get him through this. Cole stepped closer, calmer than before, and placed a steady hand on Dustfire's neck. The horse leaned slightly toward him, as if he understood that he wasn't alone. And in that dim barn, with the cold night pressing against the walls, the three of them, one tired vet, one worried rancher, and one struggling stallion, stood together at the beginning of a long, difficult night that none of them were prepared for. Cole stood beside Dustfire, trying to keep the horse calm, but Elena could see how hard he was fighting his own worry. His hand rested gently on Dustfire's neck, and even though the stallion was still uneasy, he seemed to relax a little under the familiar touch. Elena knew that horses responded to trust and familiarity, and Dustfire trusted Cole more than anyone. Elena reached into her medical bag again, taking out a gentle antiseptic solution. She moved slowly, showing Dustfire each step so he wouldn't feel startled. The horse flicked his ears nervously, but he stayed still enough for her to begin cleaning the wound more deeply. She could feel Cole watching closely. His breath, slow and tight. For a moment, everything was quiet except for Dustfire shifting his weight and the soft rustle of hay beneath their boots. The barn felt warmer now, though the night outside remained cold and still. Elena worked carefully, but her mind kept turning. This wound wasn't new. It had been there for a while. Hidden. Slowly. Growing worse. And the infection that had developed underneath it was stronger than she expected. She lifted her head and looked at Cole. "Tell me again when you first noticed something was wrong." "Noter." Cole frowned slightly, looking like he was replaying the day in his mind. "Late afternoon," he said finally. He didn't want to run. Dustfire never refuses to run. I thought he was just tired, but then he wouldn't eat much. And, after that, he started moving. Strangely. Elena nodded. The infection must have been building for days. It probably wasn't visible until now. Cole looked down, guilt clouding his features. "I should have checked more carefully." "No," Elena said firmly. "Sometimes things like this hide in places you don't expect. You take care of him better than most people do with their animals." Cole didn't answer at first. He just ran a hand slowly along Dustfire's neck, as if silently apologizing to him. Elena could see the connection between them. Strong. Loyal. Unspoken. But there was something else too. Cole wasn't just worried. He was blaming himself. And Elena knew that wasn't helpful right now. She continued cleaning, using soft cotton to gently wipe the area. Dustfire flinched once or twice, but she whispered calming words, her voice soft and steady. Horses picked up on tone more than anything else, and Dustfire responded to her calmness, breathing a little slower. Cole watched her work, his eyes focused, his brow tight. Then, suddenly, as if remembering something important, he stepped back and walked to the corner of the barn. Elena looked up, confused. "What are you doing?" she asked. He didn't answer immediately. He bent down and reached behind a wooden crate. When he stood up again, he was holding a small jar. Old, dusty, and tightly sealed. "I tried to help earlier," he said, almost reluctantly. "Before I called you." Elena's heart skipped. "What did you do?" Cole held up the jar. Inside it was a thick, herbal paste. Dark green and earthy smelling. "It's something my dad used to make. Natural medicine. For small cuts, bruises, things like that." Elena looked at the jar, then back at Cole. His expression told her everything. He had been desperate, trying anything he could to ease Dustfire's pain. She didn't sense carelessness in him, only worry and a deep desire to help. "It's harmless," he added quickly. "I didn't put much. Just a little around the saddle line, but it didn't help. That's when I called you." Elena sighed softly. Not in frustration, but in understanding. "It didn't make things worse," she said gently. "But the infection is deeper than anything a home remedy can fix." Cole nodded slowly, relief mixing with embarrassment. "I thought so." Elena placed the jar on a small wooden table nearby. She could tell he wanted to do something, anything to help, but he felt powerless. "Cole," she said, "your instincts were good. You noticed something was wrong right away. And you didn't wait too long before calling me. That matters." Cole looked at her, searching her face to see if she truly meant it. When he realized she did, his shoulders relaxed a little. "I just want him to be okay," he said quietly. Elena gave him a small, reassuring nod. "We're going to try our best." Dustfire shifted again, and Elena bent down to take a closer look at the deeper part of the wound. She noticed something glinting under the surface, a tiny object, buried in the skin. "Hold his head steady," she said softly. Cole moved closer, placing one hand under Dustfire's jaw and the other on the halter. The horse trusted Cole enough not to pull away. Elena used a pair of sterilized tweezers to gently probe the area. The object was small, but the skin around it was sensitive. Dustfire twitched once, and Cole whispered to him, calming him instantly. When Elena finally pulled the small object out, she held it close to the light. It was a tiny piece of thorn, small enough to be invisible, but large enough to cause trouble. "This is what started it," she said, showing Cole. "It must have gotten caught under the saddle pad." Cole stared at it, his jaw tightening again. "How did I miss that?" "Because no one expects something this tiny to cause so much trouble," Elena said softly. "You didn't fail him. This was hidden." Cole took a slow breath, as if trying to release some of the blame he carried. Dustfire nudged his shoulder gently, as if sensing the tension. Cole smiled weakly at the horse, brushing a hand along his mane. Elena continued cleaning, but the infection still worried her. It wasn't something she could fix with simple treatment. She needed more, something stronger, something that could stop the infection from spreading deeper. "Cole," she said quietly, "I need to see what medicine you have on hand. Anything you might have used for Dustfire in the past." Cole hesitated, then walked to another corner of the barn. He opened a wooden cabinet, revealing bottles, herbs, and small labeled jars. Most of it was normal ranch supplies, nothing that would help here. But then he pulled out something Elena didn't expect. A small glass vial, filled with a clear liquid. The light from the lamp above them made it glow faintly. When he handed it to her, she read the small handwritten label, "Serum Trial. Use with caution." Her eyebrows lifted slightly. "This is new," she murmured. "Where did you get this?" Cole rubbed the back of his neck. "A friend of mine in the city works with new treatments for animal injuries. He gave it to me months ago. Said it could help prevent long-term damage in strong horses, especially ones that train hard." Elena looked at the vial more carefully. "Have you ever used it?" "No," Cole said. "I kept it for emergencies. Thought maybe one day Dustfire might need it." The way he said it made her heart tighten. He had saved it. For this horse. For this moment. Elena held the vial gently. "This could help him," she said. "But it's strong, and it's meant for controlled situations." Cole's eyes met hers, steady, determined. "If it gives him a chance, then use it." Elena hesitated, the weight of the decision pressing on her. This wasn't a small treatment. It was something powerful, something that could help, or something that needed to be used carefully. She studied Cole's face. He wasn't careless. He wasn't pushing. "Let me think," she said softly. "I need to be sure." Cole nodded, stepping back to give her space. Dustfire shifted again, resting his head near Cole's shoulder. Elena took a slow breath. She knew one thing for certain. Tonight wasn't going to be easy. But they were in this together now. 3 lives holding on to one fragile moment of hope. Elena held the small vial in her hand for a long moment, staring at the clear liquid inside. It looked ordinary, almost like water, but she knew it wasn't something simple. It was a new kind of treatment, strong, fast-acting, and meant for serious situations. She had only heard about it, never used it herself. And now she had to decide if this was the right moment. Dustfire shifted again, a soft, tired sound coming from him. He was struggling. His breathing was uneven, his muscles tense, and his eyes showed discomfort Elena didn't like. She placed her hand gently on his neck, feeling his skin warm beneath her palm. The infection was not small. The small thorn had caused a big problem, and waiting too long could make things worse. Cole watched her quietly. his expression filled with worry and hope at the same time. He didn't rush her. He didn't speak to push her. He simply waited, his fingers gently brushing Dustfire's mane, as though trying to comfort both himself and the horse. Elena finally looked up. "If we use this," she said softly, "we're taking a risk." Cole nodded once. "I understand. It could help him," she continued. "If it works the way it's supposed to, it can stop the infection from spreading. It might even help him heal faster." Cole stepped closer, listening carefully. "But," Elena lowered her eyes again to the vial. "But, it's strong, and I don't know how Dustfire will respond. Every horse is different. Some treatments help immediately, some take time, and some don't work the way we expect." Cole took a slow breath, trying to steady himself. "What happens if we don't use it?" Elena didn't answer right away. She didn't want to make him more afraid, but she also couldn't hide the truth. "The infection might get worse," she said gently. "We can give him regular medicine, but it might not act fast enough. The sooner we stop the infection, the better his chances." Cole's jaw tightened again, but this time not out of anger or guilt. It was fear disguised behind strength. He looked at Dustfire, and the horse lifted his head slightly, leaning it against Cole's arm. That small gesture seemed to break something inside him. When he spoke, his voice was quiet, emotional in a way Elena had never heard from him. "He's my partner," Cole said softly. "My best friend. We've worked together every day for years. I trust him with everything. If there's a chance to help him, I'll take it." Elena felt her own eyes warm. There was something deeply sincere in his words, pure, honest care that couldn't be faked. She nodded slowly. "Okay," she whispered. "We'll try." Cole exhaled. Relief and fear mixed together. Elena reached for her medical bag, pulling out sterilized equipment and a small injector. She worked carefully, preparing everything with steady hands. But inside, she could feel her heart beating faster. This was not a normal treatment. This was something unpredictable. Cole stayed by Dustfire's head, speaking softly to him, calming him with familiar words. Elena watched them for a moment. The bond between them made her more determined than ever to help. She finally held up the vial. "Once I open this, we can't go back," she said quietly. "I know," Cole replied. "Do it." Elena took a breath and opened the vial, the tiny click echoing gently in the quiet barn. She drew the liquid into the injector, carefully checking the measurement. Everything had to be precise. No mistakes. Dustfire flicked an ear, sensing the seriousness in the air. Elena stepped closer, placing a hand on his warm shoulder. She whispered, soft, soothing words, not only for Dustfire, but also for herself. "Easy. It's okay. We're helping you." Cole kept a gentle grip on the halter, guiding the horse's head down slightly. Elena positioned the injector in a safe muscle area along Dustfire's neck. Her fingers were steady, but her breath felt tight in her chest. Finally, she pressed the injector lightly. The liquid entered slowly, and Dustfire twitched, but didn't pull away. Cole kept whispering to him, his voice low and steady, like a calm river flowing through the quiet barn. When it was done, Elena stepped back and took a deep breath. "We need to watch him," she said. "The next few minutes matter." Cole nodded. "I'm not going anywhere." Dustfire shifted his weight again, lifting his head slightly. Elena placed her stethoscope on his side to listen to his heartbeat. It was fast but steady. She moved to check his breathing. Still uneven, but not worse. She hoped that was a good sign. Minutes passed slowly. The barn seemed to hold its breath with them. The wind outside brushed against the wooden walls, making a soft whispering sound, as if nature itself was quietly waiting. Elena glanced at Cole. He hadn't moved. Not even a little. He stood beside Dustfire like a guard, like a friend who refused to leave. His eyes didn't blink much, and every time Dustfire made a small sound or moved even a little, Cole's expression shifted with concern. Then, suddenly, Dustfire let out a long, low breath. His muscles loosened slightly. His ears relaxed. It was small, but it was something. Elena's heart lifted. "He's responding," she said softly. Cole looked at her quickly. "In a good way?" "Yes," she smiled a little. "He's relaxing. That means the medicine isn't upsetting him so far." Cole let out a breath he had been holding. Thank goodness. But the moment of relief didn't last long. A few minutes later, Dustfire's eyes closed halfway, and he seemed to sway slightly. Elena moved fast, checking his heartbeat again. It was slower now. Too slow. "Cole," she said sharply. Cole's hands were instantly firm, but calm. "What's happening?" "He's tired," Elena said. "The medicine is strong. It might make him feel weak for a few minutes." Cole swallowed hard. "Is he in danger?" Elena put her ear close to Dustfire's chest, listening carefully. The heartbeat was slow, but steady. Not faint. Not failing. Just resting. "No," she said, more confident now. "This is normal for some treatments. His body is adjusting. He's not in danger, he's just reacting." Cole closed his eyes briefly, relief washing over him. Elena kept monitoring Dustfire, adjusting her tools, checking every small detail. She didn't miss a single change. She couldn't. This moment mattered too much. After a long, tense stretch of time, Dustfire's breathing evened out again. His head lowered gently, and he leaned slightly toward Cole, almost as if asking for comfort. Cole placed both hands around Dustfire's face, touching his forehead gently. "I'm here," he whispered. Elena stepped back, letting them have the moment. Dustfire wasn't healed. Not yet. But something important had happened. The medicine had entered his body and hadn't caused a severe reaction. That alone was a big step. She sat on a bucket nearby, feeling her exhaustion return. Hours of work were still ahead, but for the first time that night, she felt a small seed of hope growing. Cole looked at her. Really looked. And for the first time since she arrived, she saw a small hint of gratitude and trust in his eyes. "Thank you," he said quietly. Elena shook her head gently. "It's not over yet." "I know," Cole replied. "But you gave him a chance. That means everything." Dustfire shifted again, resting his head against Cole's chest. Cole wrapped an arm around him, his touch steady and full of quiet affection. Elena knew then that what they faced next, the long hours, the stress, the uncertainty, would be hard. But they wouldn't face it alone. A rancher who loved his horse more than he ever said aloud. A vet who refused to give up even when she was exhausted. And a brave stallion fighting through the night. They were bound together now. And the night was far from over. The hours of the night began to stretch slowly, each one feeling longer than the last. Elena stayed close to Dustfire, checking his breathing, his heartbeat, and the wound, again and again. Every small change made her alert. Every quiet sigh from the horse brought a new worry, and every calm moment gave her a little more hope. The barn was dim except for one warm lantern hanging above them, spreading a soft yellow glow on the hay-covered floor. Outside, the wind brushed gently against the wooden walls, making a soft rustling sound that filled the quiet space. It was a peaceful night everywhere except inside their hearts. Dustfire had moments when he seemed comfortable, lowering his head and leaning into Cole's hands. Then there were moments when his breathing changed suddenly, reminding Elena that the fight wasn't over yet. The medicine was strong, and his body was trying to work with it. Cole stayed by the horse's side without moving much. He didn't sit. He didn't rest. He barely blinked. Every time Elena looked at him, she saw the same expression, tired but determined. The bond between Cole and Dustfire was clear in everything he did. He stroked Dustfire's mane, whispered calming words, and never once stepped away. "Cole," Elena said softly, after a long while. "You should sit for a few minutes. You've been standing the whole time." Cole shook his head. "You're exhausted," Elena insisted. "So are you," he replied, his voice gentle but stubborn. She opened her mouth to argue but then stopped. He was right. They were both drained. Yet neither of them could bring themselves to leave Dustfire's side. They stayed together, two tired humans fighting through the night for a horse who meant the world to them. A little later, Dustfire suddenly shifted his weight, letting out a soft, uneasy sound. Elena moved quickly to check him, placing her hand on his neck. He was warm again, warmer than she wanted. "He might be reacting to the medication," she said quietly. Cole looked at her, concerned. "Is that bad?" "Not necessarily," she said. "His body is working hard, but we need to cool him down." She grabbed a clean cloth, dipped it in cool water, and carefully placed it on Dustfire's neck. The horse flinched at first, but then relaxed under the gentle touch. Cole watched her closely. "Tell me what else I can do." Elena thought for a moment. "Talk to him. Keep him calm." Horses respond to familiar voices. Cole nodded and leaned his head close to Dustfire's ear. "You're doing good," he whispered softly. "I'm right here. We're going to get through this." His voice was steady, calm, warm. Dustfire's ears moved slightly, listening. Elena felt her heart soften. She had seen many owners care for their animals, but what she saw now was different. It wasn't loud or dramatic. It was quiet, deep, and steady, like a promise that Cole would never leave Dustfire, no matter what. Minutes drifted by, then an hour, then another. The barn felt like its own world, far away from everything else. Just the three of them, holding on to hope. Elena sat on a bale of hay for a short moment, rubbing her eyes. She was starting to feel the long day catching up with her. The tiredness in her bones. The weight of responsibility. The pressure of making the right decisions. Cole noticed and walked over. "You need rest," he said gently. "I can't," Elena replied. "He needs to be watched constantly." "I'll watch him," Cole said. "Just close your eyes for a few minutes. I'll wake you if anything changes." "Cole." Elena hesitated. She didn't want to leave Dustfire unmonitored, but she trusted Cole. He wasn't going to look away for a second. She nodded slowly. "Only for a few minutes." She curled up on the hay bale, her coat wrapped around her shoulders. The lantern light felt warm on her face. As she closed her eyes, she could still hear Cole's voice talking quietly to Dustfire. She drifted into a light, uneasy sleep, still half listening to every sound. She wasn't sure how long she slept, but suddenly she felt a hand gently touch her shoulder. "Elena," Cole whispered softly. "Wake up." She opened her eyes quickly, her heart jumping. "What happened?" Cole pointed toward Dustfire. He stopped breathing normally for a moment. Elena rushed to the horse's side. She leaned close, listening to his lungs. His breathing was shallow but still there. She let out a slow breath of relief. "He's okay," she said softly. "He just weakened for a second." Cole exhaled shakily. "I thought." His voice broke off, too full of emotion to finish the sentence. Elena placed a gentle hand on his arm. "He's fighting, but we're here to help him through it." Cole nodded, though his eyes looked tired and worried. Dustfire moved slightly, lifting his head in a small, weak motion. Cole placed his hand under the horse's jaw to support him. "Easy," he whispered. "You're doing great." Elena prepared warm water mixed with gentle herbs to help soothe Dustfire from the inside. The mixture wasn't strong, but it was safe and calming. With Cole's help, they guided the horse to drink slowly. Dustfire took small sips, his eyes half closed. Good boy, Elena whispered. After a few minutes, Dustfire seemed more relaxed again. His breathing steadied, and the tension in his muscles loosened. Elena leaned back against the wall, letting out a long breath. He's hanging on, she said. Cole nodded, brushing Dustfire's forehead gently. He's strong. Stronger than I am most days. Elena smiled faintly. You're doing pretty well yourself. I. He gave a soft, tired smile. Only because of you. The night grew deeper. The lantern dimmed slightly as its oil slowly burned away. The quiet became so gentle that every small sound felt louder: the shift of Dustfire's hooves, Cole's breath, the rustle of hay. At one point, Dustfire lowered himself slightly, trying to rest. Elena moved fast to help support him, and Cole immediately stepped in as well. Together, they guided the horse to a comfortable position. You're okay, Cole murmured. Rest if you need to. Rest if you need to. Dustfire breathed out slowly, leaning against the stall wall. His eyes closed in a tired but peaceful way. Elena placed her hand on his neck again. This is good, she said. He's finally resting. Cole sat down beside Dustfire, leaning his shoulder gently against the horse. I'm right here, he whispered. Elena watched them for a moment, her heart warm. She had seen many animals fight to get better, but something about Dustfire's struggle felt different, maybe because he wasn't fighting alone. Cole didn't leave him, and Elena didn't either. Hours passed like this, quiet, slow, yet filled with a sense of hope. The darkest part of the night began to fade as a soft light touched the barn windows. Morning was approaching, bringing with it a new day and new strength. Dustfire's breathing was steady now. His body was still tired, but it wasn't fighting as hard as before. His ears twitched slightly when Cole spoke, showing that he was aware and listening. Elena finally felt her chest loosen. I think he's going to make it through the night. Cole looked at her with eyes full of gratitude. Because of you. Because of us, she corrected softly. He needed both of us. Cole nodded slowly, and something gentle passed between them: understanding, respect, and relief. As the first light of dawn slipped into the barn, the long night of fear slowly began to lift. Dustfire wasn't healed yet, but he wasn't alone. He had fought through the hardest part, supported by two people who refused to give up. And as the morning sun rose, the barn felt warmer, brighter, and full of new hope. The first soft light of morning touched the sky, gently painting the barn in pale gold. It wasn't bright yet, but it was enough to soften the darkness that had filled the long night. Elena blinked slowly, letting her eyes adjust. She hadn't slept much, maybe only a few minutes at a time, but the sight in front of her brought a quiet comfort she didn't expect. Dustfire was still resting, his breathing steady and calm. His head was lowered, eyes half open but peaceful. The tense lines around his body had softened, and though he was still tired, he didn't look like he was struggling anymore. Elena placed a hand on his neck and felt the warmth, warm, but not dangerously so. A normal kind of warmth, natural, alive. Cole was sitting beside him, leaning gently against the stall wall. He must have stayed awake the whole night, because his eyes were red, and his face carried the kind of tiredness that only comes from deep worry. But even in his exhaustion, he wore a small, relieved smile. It wasn't wide or dramatic. It was the quiet kind of smile that someone gives when they finally feel hope, after hours of fear. Elena stood slowly, stretching her stiff legs. Cole looked up at her with soft eyes. You made it through the night, he said quietly. But he wasn't talking to her. He was talking to Dustfire, as if the horse could understand each word perfectly. Elena walked around the stall, checking Dustfire gently. His heartbeat was strong now, his lungs moving smoothly, his muscles relaxed. She felt her chest loosen. He's improving, she said. Really improving. Cole finally let out a long breath. A breath he had probably been holding since the night before. "Thank goodness," he whispered, brushing a hand along Dustfire's cheek. "Good boy." Dustfire nudged him gently, as if responding. Elena smiled. The connection between them was still as strong as ever. But now, there was a sense of relief mixed in. A sense of gratitude. A sense that the worst part was behind them. Cole turned to her, his voice soft. "I don't know how to thank you. I don't know." "You don't have to," she replied. "You stayed with him all night. That helped more than you know." Cole shook his head. "You were the one who knew what to do. You saved him." Elena didn't argue. But she didn't take full credit either. The truth was simple. They both had saved him. Together. The morning sun slowly brightened the barn. And for the first time, Elena could see the small details she hadn't noticed during the dark night. The dust floating gently in the air. The fresh hay in the corner. The soft lines of Dustfire's mane illuminated by the sunlight. Everything looked calmer, softer, safer. Dustfire lifted his head higher, then took a careful step forward. It wasn't strong or energetic, but it was steady. Cole stood quickly, watching him with wide, hopeful eyes. "That's a good sign," Elena said. "He's getting some strength back." Cole nodded, though he still watched Dustfire as if he were the most fragile, precious thing in the world. Elena prepared a small bowl of softened food, mixed with mild herbs to help with healing. She placed it in front of Dustfire, watching closely. Dustfire smelled it first, then took a small bite. Then another, and another. Cole let out a soft laugh, quiet, almost disbelieving. "He's eating." Elena grinned. "Yes. That means his body is accepting the medicine. He's on the path to recovery." Cole rubbed his hands over his face, relief settling into his shoulders. "I don't think I've ever been so happy to watch someone eat." Elena laughed softly, and the sound felt light in the warm barn. Hours passed gently. The barn filled with sunlight, warming the wooden walls and giving the space a peaceful glow. Dustfire ate more, drank water, and even lifted his head in a proud way, something he hadn't done since before the pain began. After making sure Dustfire was stable, Elena cleaned up her supplies. She moved slowly, her muscles still tired from the long night. When she finished, she stepped outside to breathe fresh air. The sky above was bright blue, and the ranch spread out wide and beautiful, the fields, the fences, the hills in the distance, touched by morning light. Cole followed her outside, standing beside her in silence for a moment. The peaceful breeze brushed past them. For the first time since the night before, Cole looked like he wasn't carrying all the weight of the world on his shoulders. "Are you okay?" Elena asked softly. "I think so," Cole replied. "It still feels unreal that he's going to be fine." "Animals are stronger than we think," she said, "and love goes a long way." Cole glanced at her, his expression thoughtful. "I don't know what would have happened if you didn't come." Elena looked back at the barn. "You would have found another way. You're stronger than you think, too." He shook his head gently. "Maybe, but I'm glad it was you." Elena didn't know what to say to that. Her heart warmed a little at his words, and she looked down at her hands, suddenly feeling shy. "Well, I'm glad I was here too. M. They stood there for another quiet minute, letting the sun warm their tired bodies. Eventually, Elena walked back toward her truck to gather her things. Cole followed her, almost like he didn't want her to leave yet. When she placed her bag in the truck, Cole stepped forward, his voice soft. "You're coming back later, right? To check on him?" "Of course," she said with a smile. "I'll be back this afternoon. He's not completely out of danger, but the hardest part is done." Cole nodded, relief settling into his features again. "Good. I don't want to do this without you." Elena felt a gentle flutter in her chest. You did a lot, Cole. Don't forget that. He shrugged slightly. But she could see the honesty in his eyes when he said, I only made it through the night because you were here. Elena didn't reply right away. She looked toward the barn where Dustfire rested. The sunlight framed the doorway, making everything feel brighter, safer. Then she looked back at Cole. We make a good team, she said softly. A small smile tugged at Cole's lips. Yeah, we do. Elena climbed into her truck, but didn't start the engine yet. Cole stood beside the door, his hat in his hand, looking both grateful and unsure. There was something unspoken between them, not romantic, not rushed, just a deep sense of connection formed from a difficult night shared side by side. Get some rest, Elena said. You too, he replied. You look like you could sleep for a week. Elena laughed quietly. I probably could. Cole stepped back a little. Drive safe. I will. She finally started the engine. As she drove down the dirt road away from the barn, she looked back once. Cole stood there, watching her leave. The sun framed him, making him look gentler than he had seemed the night before. Elena smiled to herself. She had come as a vet answering an emergency call. But she left feeling something different, something warm, something meaningful. And behind her, in that barn filled with morning light, a brave stallion rested peacefully, safe because two people refused to give up on him when it mattered most.